Paulo Casals lived to, I think, about 96 years old. And in his 90s, he was still practicing his cello up to 3 hours a day. And when asked once why he still practiced so hard, he said, "I think I'm beginning to notice some improvement." The gun. I was 6 years old and on a family vacation in Disneyland in Anaheim, California, when my family received a phone call that my grandmother, an immigrant from Italy, had taken her own life with a gun my father had kept in the house. It was his service revolver, as he was an Alameda, California police officer. The gun was not loaded. The bullets were kept in a separate location. My grandmother was struggling with what would now be diagnosed as dementia, caused from hardening of the arteries of the brain. She had shown no signs of mental deterioration. She had shown signs of mental deterioration and dementia. In the mid-60s, there were no wonder drugs or procedures for this. The treatment for this was shock therapy. I understand that my father would take her to Oakland for shock treatment and that she would be fine, bright, cognizant, and just like herself for a while. And then the inevitable would happen as she would begin to slip back into a lost cloud. By the time we returned, fellow comrades of my dad had repaired and removed any signs of the horrific event. It was soon after this that we moved to North Carolina, the state of my dad's birth. His father was ailing, and he had accepted a job heading a criminal justice program in in Lexington. On visits to my grandfather's farm, where I now live, I would get to do many things that you can do on a farm. Drive the tractor, get eggs from the hen house, and yes, get to shoot my grandfather's .22 rifle. I was never told that guns were bad. I knew that they made my mother nervous, and I was too young to connect the dots. As I grew older, I played army with my friends, died in pretend mock battles, pretend dying, pretend killing. I tell you this now because my son Caden, who is about to turn 7, is about all things military. I must admit I have encouraged this a bit. I take him to air shows. I've taken him to the battleship North Carolina. And yes, one day in the not too soon future, I will get him his first BB gun. I have tried to encourage him to think of the military as an honorable option in his life, maybe out of my own regret for never having served, as now I look upon the youth who do serve with great respect and admiration. I myself own a .38 pistol and a shotgun. I see guns as tools. Dangerous? Yes. To be treated with respect? Yes. And sure as a father, I want my son to know how to use and respect this tool. Now, I am as liberal can be. I want stricter controls in our society about who can get a gun. There should be training and licensing one must go through to own a gun. I believe the type of weapon a person can own should be restricted. And I would prefer, myself, a total ban on the, quote, assault weapons that are so available. I am all too aware of the horrible consequences of a gun in the wrong hands. But this is not to be a talk about gun control. It is a desire to understand the human condition. Remember, as the children's story basically summed up everything I have to say today, the choice is in our hands. For I believe a song in the wrong hands can cause as much damage in our society, or a faith in the wrong hands can cause as much damage in our society, and can inspire acts of brutality. We have music that has encouraged a new generation of humans, our replacements, folks, who associate music with misogyny and brutality. Music that is as aggressive in tone as it is in its lyric content. Music that has inspired an FU attitude towards our fellow human beings. Guitars. Voices rise and fall in glorious harmony. as intricate melodic patterns weave contrapuntally into sculptured airwaves, and it bathes one's aural senses with beauty and contemplative, transcendent ecstasy. In moments induced by music, one feels the glory and awareness of being alive. And in the moment, breathing is relaxed and pain subsides. Tears may well up as one acknowledges that humans are capable of some of the most serene and subtle of sounds. Our capacity to create and enjoy music is as much intellectual as it is passionate. It stimulates every molecule in our body and draws forth one intense emotion associated with, draws forth from one an intense emotion associated with ancient pagan rites and the raw energy of animal lust. Yet it is created out of the logic and rationality of the human mind, given to rules and structures that rise above the very lust it stirs. It appeals to the most noble of human facets, beauty and the aesthetics of art and culture. It makes us think and allows us to feel. It mirrors who we are and our reaction to what we have become. It has soothed the elder and the baby to sleep and roused the soldier to face the foe on the field of battle. For some, it is a direct pathway to what some people have come to understand as God. And all I wanted to do was play guitar. I have often used music as a shelter, an escape from what has truthfully been a benign and fortunate life. I have had the typical opportunities of a middle-class Caucasian male in a society dominated by middle-class Caucasian males. I have never had to fight for a basic right to vote, to be treated as an equal, to wonder if I was being paid less because of my gender, or felt different due to an accent or tone of my skin. I have been able to surf under the radar in our society, blending in and remaining off the profile, so to speak. And yet I sought escapism in music and discovered early on that I could lock myself away and become lost in the sounds of a mysterious force that I could not understand. But I sought to understand it. I wanted to know why it affected me. I wanted to control it. I wanted to induce the effect on myself and others whenever I pleased. And so when it came time to go to college, I was given the opportunity to study music. I jumped at the chance, knowing that whatever regrets I would have later in life, this opportunity would not be one of them. In later years, I ran across a quote that described the feeling I had at the years of 18. Regret for things we did can be tempered by time. It is regret for the things we did not do that is inconsolable. I've spoken before that music must have dissonance to balance the consonants and therefore reflects the human condition. Remember, the boy had the choice to crush the bird or to let it go. We are all here as Unitarians, or we identify with Unitarianism, I believe, because we want our religion and our experience of it to be a positive force in our lives and those that surround us. But do we conveniently ignore the flip side of what religion offers? The primitive idea that we are God's chosen, while others, and the word for others in many societies, translates out to less than human. How do we acknowledge that out of destruction and strife, creativity and beauty are born? Several years ago, I began an essay titled, "The Beauty of War." I wanted to write about the good things that can come from war. I was inspired from returning soldier's words about his increased awareness of geography and appreciation of different cultures. He had visited places that he would have never seen or been had it not been for war. In essence, war had been a positive, enlightening experience for him. The Latin word for war is bellum, as in antebellum. But the Latin word for beauty is bellus. Bellus. I read that the Latin word for war was replaced with the guerra so as to avoid confusion in the terms. In fact, in Latin, a pretty war may be stated as bello bello. And I think that's interesting that war and beauty basically are the same word. The other day, I was going to Raleigh to pick up my son, and I saw a bumper sticker on the back of a motorcyclist's helmet, and it basically stated, "Destroy religion before it destroys us all." At first I identified and said, yes. I get it. I agree. But then it began to bother me. What bothered me was the word destroy. I do not want to destroy anything. I certainly do not want to destroy what over the ages has brought so much comfort to so many people. With what has brought so much beauty and thought and ideas to the human family. I want to make peace with religion. I want to make peace with my fellow human beings while I walk this planet. I am truly at a loss as to how to react to this spinning out of control of the future shock predictions of Alvin Toffler, which can be summarized as too much change in too short a period of time. I am saddened by the loss of arts programs in our schools that let our children experiment with creativity and learn to channel aggression into works of beauty and hope. This is the final question. What do we as humans, with our energy, psychic as well as physical, how do we channel it, and for what purpose? L'Homme Armé is a secular tune from France that appears in history about the same time as the fall of Constantinople to the Ottoman Turks in 1453. Many laments were composed for this occasion, as the loss of the city had a sweeping effect on Europe that could be likened to the gut feeling this country experienced on September 11th, 2001. In one of the Crusades, when the Christians were once again bound and determined to take back the city of Jerusalem from the infidels, the city was attacked with such a vengeance that the place was littered with the rotting corpses of the inhabitants of the city. Hacked, stabbed, cut through, and bludgeoned to death, the victors were unable to occupy their beloved sacred space due to the carnage and destruction that had been delivered. No gun was necessary, only religion and a soldier's song to inspire the act. And now the choir would like to sing the tune in the original French. Can we, before they do, can I read the translation? Sure. Do we have that? The English translation for this secular tune, which by the way in the Renaissance, composers writing masses for the Catholic Church incorporated this melody into over 40 different versions of the Catholic Mass. It is the most popular melody used for the setting of a Catholic Mass in the Renaissance. And people in Europe would have known this song. And there's many explanations as to why composers chose this melody. But the English translation is basically this. And after the Arizona tragedy, this is really what popped into my mind as L'Homme Armé, which every music student studies. The English translation is, the man, the armed man, the armed man, the armed man should be feared, should be feared. Everywhere it has been proclaimed that each man shall arm himself with a coat of iron mail.
Oh
the art that has provided me shelter, peace, tranquility, being used to march our children off to war. In the hands of the propagandist, music is merely a pawn to reach a desired effect. We must stop using guns, guitars, and God to checkmate each other. Chess is a fine game, and one I am teaching my son. In many ways, it reflects accurately the poor and oppressed and the privileged few. But I also hope it will teach him the beauty of the dance, the intricacies of human relationships, and that one small move or choice in life can have consequences well beyond the intended move. Bellum omnium contra omnis is a Latin phrase meaning the war of all against all. It is a description that is used in Thomas Hobbes in 1642. It is a chilling phrase. The war of all against all. That's not what I want. I don't think that's what any of us want. If any of you would like to Google, if you Google, they have free books that you can go online. There's a text I found that is very powerful. It was published in 1917, I think, maybe before then, 1907, and it's called In Praise of War. And it's a series of poems and hymns that are in praise of war. And I was going to bring, the first poem is called In Praise of War, and it talks about the person who wants peace being the coward, and so forth. And it's eerie. It's very eerie that we have that. As many of you know, if you try to find songs in praise of war, thankfully, most of the songs that we have are anti-war songs. The Armed Man, I don't know if that is an anti-war or a warning or a call to arms for Europe to rise up against the Ottoman Turks. Another important song I would recommend anybody might be interested in looking at, listening to, is in, I believe it was 1969, Jimi Hendrix played a live New Year's concert, and his band was called the Band of Gypsies, and one of the songs he played is called Machine Gun, and it basically is a modern version of L'Homme Armé, talking about machine gun will cut you down, will cut me down, will destroy the human family. It's a very powerful song. We'll sing a soldier's song with cheering, rousing chorus, while round our blazing fires we throng, the starry heavens o'er us. Impatient for the coming fight, and as we wait the morning's light, here in the silence of the night, we will chant a soldier's song. And all I wanted to do was play guitar. Thank you.